Welcome to Are We the Only Ones? I'm Kathy, and today I want to talk about how MTG turned tail, joined the resistance for like 2 days, and then decided to resign on January 5th. Wow, that was short-lived. How crazy. So AOC was right. Giving the benefit of the doubt, that just taught me a lesson about giving the benefit of the doubt to somebody who you just shouldn't. I mean, you can be optimistic, but that was so short-lived. It was like the most ridiculous, laughable, if anything, symbolic and reflective of how MAGA really is. It's easy to feel like you're winning if you're the loud voice and you're scaring everybody to death because you're threatening and like aggressive. And you're dealing with a side that's like not as aggressive, right? Because progressives and Democrats tend to be more about, we're trying to like give people healthcare. We're trying to give people food if they need it, right? So why would we be violent and threaten you? That's not really the culture, right? It's more of like a defense than it is as an offensive kind of strategy. Now, within a few days of her joining, quote unquote, I was trying to say I was like the resistance, but like literally, I guess she got a lot of death threats that were more aggressive than she'd gotten in the past from her own party. And so that's why she decided to resign. Now, there's word that there is going to be a huge amount of Republicans that are also going to join her in resignation in the coming weeks. They are all most likely already hit their pension. She's about 2 days in past hitting her 5-year mark for vesting. It would be, I guess, for the House congressional members, they only have to be in Congress for 5 years before they vest in for a full pension. I didn't realize that. I don't think any of us really realized it was only 5 years. Considering a full term is 6 years, that's kind of weird. So you would think you'd have to at least finish a full term to be vested in. So that should be something that we all kind of revisit and maybe put on. I would like to see future politicians put things like this on the ballot for us to vote on, as opposed to them getting to vote on, honestly, because that obviously is a very corruptible environment, right? The other thing that was interesting over the weekend, which is crazy news, was that the DHS.gov Twitter account, after Elon Musk decided to set up a feature where you could see where the accounts originated from, turns out the DHS.gov official American government Department of Homeland Security website is run out of Israel. Now, I don't think people seem to understand like how serious that is, because the news is not really reporting on this and explaining the analysis on why that's a big deal. This means that our government has been infiltrated by a foreign government. They're running the Department of Homeland Security account, official account. That means that these are things like in terms of articles of impeachment. Anytime a president would then relinquish power to a foreign adversary, this would be definitely grounds for impeachment. And now you have, to me, that's the smoking gun. But I don't understand why people are not really talking about it. Or maybe it's not, just hasn't hit, the analysis not hit yet. But that's what that means, that we have been infiltrated. When you're talking about worrying about spies from China, spies from Middle East, this is our ally who then has basically taken over the controls of our plane, right? So, and they've been flying for God knows how long. Like, we really don't know. I guess you can look back and kind of recognize, like, how come we didn't hold them more responsible? How many all these policies? And it's like, it's been a long time. 30 years, perhaps, right? But now it's coming to the surface more, and I think that means that it's so prevalent, and they've basically taken over so much that it's why it's just overflowing. So we need to everybody needs to stop a minute. The fact that most of the accounts, I think it's something like 70% of the accounts that were MAGA accounts were actually overseas based accounts from Nigeria, from Asia, and a lot from Russia. And so if you were to look at the map, it'd be like almost all of these MAGA accounts are on different continents, not even in the North American continent. So all of us Americans sort of need to take a moment and recognize that as we're fighting online with whoever, is commenting. One of the things I implore you guys to do is look at the follower count. If it's a low follower count, most likely it's a paid troll. People are getting paid in these other countries to get us angry at each other, to turn us against each other. So if you can, this Thanksgiving, take a moment and maybe think about that. Maybe think about like how all this animosity is really propelled by people that don't live here and don't really understand the nuance, don't understand, it's like when you fight in your own family, it's one thing, but when other people get involved, you're like, yo, you don't know the dynamics, like you don't really know, so just trying to sow seeds of resentment, One of the things I noticed that was similar to this was during the Stop Asian Hate time. I recognized that there was a lot of people from China that were posting things on Amazon that were like toys that looked like they were blackface toys, toys that have like the white mouth and like the black skin on toy, but it's like done in a very from the days when like Black Americans couldn't be on camera, so they had to have white Americans dressed up in blackface, and it's from that era. So these Chinese nationals were posting these things, and Americans didn't know that these were not Chinese Americans, these are not Asian Americans, these were people from a totally different location. And then, it's like Asian Americans are taking on the heat of something that's not happening actually from us. So these are things that's similar to that. It's the same thing. It's just now it's MAGA. And instead of it being Asian Americans, you have people who are not even white, most likely, doing all this stuff and then making it seem like they're from America, when really they're not from America at all. And they're making MAGA get more angry and then making progressives get more angry. And we're really not the ones that are fighting. We're like fighting with completely outside. So, I mean, I would say it's akin to like you think you're having a family squabble and it turns out you're like being catfished and you're fighting with some random person that you don't know that comes from a totally different country. And they just love the idea that they're just like they have this power from so far away that they can like destroy something that's working and take no responsibility. So if you can think of it like that and recognize, okay, let's chill out. Let's like really have discussions. Maybe this will open up discussions between Americans for real, instead of just getting so upset that we just like draw a line that like of like no return. Now, back to Marjorie Taylor Greene. I did say, let's give her a chance. I think it's really funny that it literally was only like 2 days before she just like essentially made me eat my words, right? Like, I'm gonna eat my words. Like, I can't believe I went to sort of bat at that concept of like, let's like give her a chance. And she completely is such a coward that like, you cannot say you're going to stand up for the Epstein victims. And within like 2 days of saying all this stuff, like you just turn tail. Like that's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. I don't care that she is getting her pension. That is not a problem to me. Getting a pension, like, yes, that's what I want you to, if you're working, especially if you're a woman and you're working and you can get a pension. Yeah, get the pension. I don't have a problem with that. The problem is that it only took like 2 days for her to crumble. Like, that is some weak shit. That's all I'm saying. I'm sorry, but it is. It's like the weakest. It's so funny. It's so bad. So, tell me what you think. I definitely am eating my words on saying like give her a chance or whatever. When I said that we won, I just meant that like there's certain pillars that are starting to crumble. There's a long way to go, but at least you have an understanding that like stuff is starting to fall apart for them. If the numbers of Republicans that are planning to resign do resign, what will happen is there will be a lot of Democrats, and Democrats will take over control of the Congress. So that's good. But there's something like scary about, the reason the Republicans said that they're resigning is because they were getting treated like crap by the Trump administration, and they were tired of standing up and like supporting him and just getting nothing in return. I think also it's probably the additional thing that happened was Mamdani and Trump met. Mamdani went to the Oval Office, and the meeting went so well that like Trump basically told Mamdani he could call him a fascist. And by the next day, Trump was literally wearing the same outfit that Mamdani had worn to the office the day before and was no longer wearing orange makeup. So obviously he took some style tips from him and was saying like, I like the way he dressed anyway, because he dropped the suit, was wearing literally down to the same exact aubergine scarf. Like that was to that level. I was like, what is happening? So that's how I think it's like a win. right? You can see that there's certain things that he's like, oh, Trump said we have more in common than we thought we have different. I was like, really? You just call this man? But they're both from Queens, and that's a good thing, right? We want them talking to each other, and we want him to be more conciliatory. But it is, again, like I'm not gonna. I've learned my lesson. I'm not gonna overly give credit now. I'm optimistic, but I'm gonna keep it really real. So it is fair to, especially after everything that's happened, it is fair for us to be a little bit more like cautious and to question him and not to make it like super duper easy. But I think this Thanksgiving is a good litmus test. Let's see what happens. Feel free. Let me know. Tell me what you guys think. I want to know if Thanksgiving is going to be better this year because you can actually talk to your MAGA relatives or your conservative relatives and moderate relatives and see how they feel. Definitely bring up that the Twitter accounts for MAGA were overseas. I think that's something that they, you have to, if they don't know about it, they should know about. And, if you want to also remind, just like about kids getting kidnapped and like how those kids that have been raised here in America are being detained and they're not having Thanksgiving with their parents. And they're in like these cages with these aluminum foil looking blankets and they're huddled together. And there's pictures of ththese kids that are like, there's like 4 kids I have posted on my personal Instagram account, where you can see that under Kathy Tran Wilson on Instagram. And you'll see that I have a follow-up on these separations are still happening. Because a lot of MAGA people like to say that it's not true. It's not happening at all. But for me, it's a disparaging. How is there so much news that's obviously out there that's truth and like these people don't know? That is really concerning. In addition to the stats that, the educated tend to vote progressive and people that are not educated will vote Republican. And that now that they just decided that the Trump administration has declared that nursing and other like therapy, early childhood education types of jobs are no longer professional jobs or careers. So therefore, what that means is that you cannot get the kind of funding for your school loan that you would have like before. It's going to cap at $20,500 a year, I believe, $100,000 at lifetime of loans that you could get for these types of careers. And that's a problem because we have a shortage and we really do need these jobs. The other thing about these jobs that you may not know, these are all jobs, they're mostly female dominated industries, and all of the jobs that have been hit with this were jobs that were mandatory reporting jobs, which means that these people in these jobs were mandated to report to the police anytime there was any child abuse, child sex abuse, child sex crimes, any kind of those types of things. So it tracks with how the administration really does not care about kids, and they do anything to protect people that are abusers because they keep legislating on their behalf. So there's something to be said about that, especially coming into Thanksgiving. We're all going to be meeting with our families and spending time with our families. I want you to think about your kids and imagine if they were trapped in a cage. Just think about that. Like I sort of I was like, if our kids were in there, they would not survive. They would not survive if they were detained. And so that's what we have to remember as we're sitting here in the comfort of our homes this week, going to Thanksgiving week. Let's just keep it real. Like, yes, I want you to spend time with your family. I want you to enjoy that because that's what we've got right now because times are tough. But the reality is there are people that have been kidnapped from their families and they're being detained unlawfully, and they should be home with their families. And there's a certain amount of reflection you should have for that coming up. Just something to think about. All right. Final thing. I have my notes on the side because when I take notes on my phone, I can't obviously check them if I'm using it to record. So, federal judge dismisses indictments against Letitia James and James Comey because Lindsay Halligan was invalidly appointed. She also just didn't give the indictment to the grand jury, which is what happened. And then they realized that this is not a legal indictment anymore. And so the whole thing fell apart, which it should fall apart because they were not doing, James Comey and Letitia James were above board. So there's really nothing to do with them other than create a witch hunt. So that failed. And it's amazing to me how many things that the Republicans can fail at and Republicans don't recognize. Like, I'm eating shit for saying that we should give MTG a chance. And that was 2 days in. I'm eating shit for it right now. I'm taking results right now. How could you let all these things be wrong and continue on? Like, that is beyond insanity. So just recognize that. I think it's time to talk about nuance and like really have deep discussions. Like, I just want to be right. Aren't you sick of like defending the wrong position? Aren't you tired? You know, like, how much can people defend something that's just straight up wrong? You just can't want to be right so bad that you would literally be defending pedophiles, be defending people that would separate children from their parents when they're really, really young. Like, that's freaking crazy. That's bonkers. You can't even do that to puppies. But you can do it to humans? Like, what the hell is going on? Just think about it. All right. Until next time, follow me on Substack, subscribe on Substack. I brought the subscription price down. I raised it to $8. It's down to $5. If anybody wants to subscribe monthly, it's $5. And for the annual, it is now $55 until the end of the year. And then I'll raise the price back up. So just in case, if you guys are down to subscribe, and then I'll be sending out, I'm looking at different merch options and fun things like that. Maybe stickers, maybe hats. Such as founding members will get full sweatsuits. And it'll be a really fun time. I'm going to be looking at a whole bunch of different creative things. So give me some feedback. Follow me on Instagram as well. Are We the Only Ones Pod on TikTok. On Are We the Only Ones Podcast on TikTok. Everywhere else, it's Are We the Only Ones Pod. And yeah, feel free to comment and tell us what you think. If there's nuances you want to discuss, if there's insights, analysis that you guys see, and we'll have a discussion. All right. Until next time. Bye.